The European ministers for transport met, and for the transport problems across the European Union, they set up the Joint Research Transport Group. They met, and in 2 years they had come out with a framework of a report. One of the main things they debated upon for these 2 years was how to define congestion. And various definitions came on board. Various types of avenues in which you could look at congestion. Finally, a small line was agreed upon amongst many definitions of congestion. And it was said that congestion would be a function of demand and supply. The demand for road space, when it exceeds supply, you could simply call it congestion. And when I talk about what is congestion, I think we have to apply all these terms to the situation which we face in Goa, in Panjim, and in our cities to be particular, and congestion in the country in general. One thing I would like everyone to keep in mind is we will not be able to eradicate congestion. And let us not think and fool ourselves that we can do away with congestion and we'll have utopian roads where everything will be clean, green and fresh. Agglomeration, that is cities, and traffic has grown hand in hand for years together, right from the beginning of mankind. It has never been separate. And I don't think eradication of congestion is a topic of discussion anymore. How to mitigate, how to solve, how to reduce congestion to tolerable limits is what is important. And that is what our study, our presentation, and our roadmap focuses on. Another aspect of congestion is excessive congestion. What is excessive congestion? When do we face excessive congestion? One of the simplest definitions of excessive congestion is we find excessive congestion or we feel excessive congestion when all of us say there is excessive congestion. There is no further better definition which one could arrive at. When people say there is excessive congestion, or when people say I can't move in Panjim, I can't enter Panjim peacefully, fast enough, I think it is time to say we have excessive congestion. And reduction of congestion, mitigation of congestion is tackling congestion on various fronts, multiple strategies involving all and sundry, all agencies, businesses, public, elected representatives, and everybody, the people and citizenry at large. This is what would entail a collective and comprehensive move to eradicate or to mitigate congestion. One of the common fallacies today in traffic planning, in city planning, and in thinking, in government circles, in private circles, in business circles, is that congestion is a traffic engineering problem. Smaller the circle, bigger the circle. I get queries every day. That circle which is put there by the PWD or that which is proposed by the traffic department is big. It has to be small, traffic will move faster. Or it has to be big, traffic will move faster. The roads have to be wider, traffic will move faster. I think it is not a traffic engineering problem. Congestion is a holistic problem which cannot be solved by traffic engineering, and it will worsen. I don't think congestion is here and we have a solution, a panacea for congestion eradication. It will worsen. As population grows, it will worsen, and as your economy grows, it will worsen. Your GDP grows, you cannot expect congestion to come down or on its own. There could be recurrent and non-recurrent congestion. Every day at 9 o'clock, I spend 1 hour to enter Panjim. At 11 o'clock, I spend 45 minutes. At 12 o'clock, I spend half an hour. This is recurrent congestion. It happens every day. There is a morcha, non-recurrent congestion. There is a breakdown, non-recurrent congestion. We have to analyze how do we solve this problem of everyday congestion and not mix up with all these issues. I'm just flagging these issues because when I propose the model, I think people should know what it is all about. And one of the main aspects which we'll focus on is how do we cost congestion. There has been studies done abroad in Europe, in America to a large extent. India, as you know, we have data, sometimes data is not available, sometimes studies are not proper. But one of the best studies done in India is in Bangalore. It has been done by the Indian Institute of Science there. And it says, in Bangalore, the cost of congestion, they have defined how they have priced congestion. The cost of congestion, it costs Bangalore and Bangaloreans around $3 million a day. The entire Bangalore city. It is a study done by the Indian Institute of Science. And it further says that every hour which a Bangalorean spends in traffic, it reduces 1/10 of the average Bangalorean's wage. That's the cost of congestion. And that is how congestion is measured. And to eliminate or mitigate congestion, we have to know how much it would cost us, how much it would cost Panjim, and how much it would cost everyone to mitigate or to bring this congestion to what I say is tolerable limits in society. And when the marginal cost to society of congestion exceeds the marginal cost of efforts to reduce this congestion, that would be the cost. We have to see that the cost to reduce congestion and the cost which the city or the society pays for congestion, these are the variables and these are the issues which we have to cost. A huge short-sighted approach is taken and a lot of measures are adopted thinking that it will reduce congestion, which actually it doesn't. Today we design roads totally autocentric. I was reading an article in the India magazine. It was written by an anthropologist, A.R. Pudurai, about the street life in India. It says India lives, works, worships, prays, sleeps on the streets. It was a very anthropological essay. Today, it is defined by only one line. India drives on its streets. Absolutely no concern for anything else. We talk about just multimodal transport. Even walking is a mode of transport. It's just India drives. And the Indian Institute of Science in its Bangalore study says India is falling into the trap which 60 years ago the United States fell in. Huge income. Here average income is ticking up. Lots of cars available. Same is the story in India today. So, you know, we are getting into the trap of just having autocentric design of roads. And absolutely no equity for pedestrians, cyclists or transit. When I say transit in my presentation, I would mean public transport. And there is no, we design our roads and broaden our roads. No consideration for pavements. Same, no cycle tracks or no cycle paths. They are not thought of. They are not planned. And we are building into and getting into this car culture rather than a transit culture. And we need today incentivize this transit culture because this is so strong that we would have to incentivize something to get into this transit culture. Another aspect of transport planning would be land use planning. I don't think the two can waver. A mixed land use, residential land use, commercial land use, How has Panjim grown? It has grown in a mixed fashion. There is commerce, there is services, hotels are services, and various other aspects. Transport planning is a transport is a spatial function. All infrastructure related with transport is spatial, whether it is a bus stand, bus terminus, bus stop, road, pavement, cycle track, it's spatial. We have to plan. Our town planning policy should work as and inculcate into its plans this transport as a spatial function. Overall, to have this transit culture, we need an entire shift of mindset. We need people to think how to shift from a car culture. We need to think, and we need to convince people that this is the need of the hour. I'll come to my plan, leaving these thoughts with you. I bring this map because I would use this map of Panjim in a fashion in various ways. So I would like you to be familiar with this map because a lot of thing is this map centric. You have the Mandovi riverfront all along Panjim. These are the two bridges which you enter in. And then you have the Rua de Orang Creek on one side, and we have the sprawl here. These are, as you know, landmarks, and we have come up with the main city center here. It's where Panjim actually works, lives, and the buzz of commerce is mostly situated here. As I was presenting this presentation and preparing for it, and we were debating, one of our team members came up with this article on the Navin Times. Vehicles in Goa up by 18%. We decided to investigate and see how to benchmark this article on in terms of the world and India. You know, in 2006 in Goa, we had 49,000 odd vehicles. In 2012, we have 75,000 vehicles. And in 2016, we are nearly going to double what was there here into almost 1 lakh vehicles. There has been absolutely a spurt what is being projected. The total vehicular population of 8.65 lakh in 2012 is going to be 13 lakh in 2016. Where are we heading to? How many vehicles can our roads take? Is it time? Do we admit that there is congestion? If we admit, what are we doing? That's the question we answer today. Every other person owns a vehicle. So every second person has a vehicle in Goa today. And to benchmark this figure across the world, France, 4,000 people has 598 cars, Germany 564, Malaysia 350, this is in Southeast Asia, India has 18 cars per 1,000 people, and Goa has 500 cars per 1,000 people. Where are we heading for? These are actual live figures as on date. There has to be a thought of where we are going. We have various challenges. It is not that we can just solve the problem. We have analyzed our problem in various ways. Congested roads and junctions, pedestrian environment is unfriendly, a public transport system, nothing great to talk about, and parking sense and parking discipline almost non-existent. How do we tackle this? You know, again I come to the map of Panjim, and in red we have indicated where we absolutely cannot move. You enter into Panjim, and this road around the bridges is packed. When you come from the south, you enter Panjim here, that's packed. You go to Rua de Orang, the schools and the businesses around this stifles you. You enter into Panjim, suddenly you feel that you are moving, and then when you reach the jetty point, you get congested again. And then you go into the market area and get further congested, and here you say, Again, there is traffic moving out, up and down. And internal Panjim, the MG Road, 18 June Road, and all the junctions which are marked here in blobs, they are congested. And this was a phenomenon which would happen in the mornings or in the afternoons or in the evenings. And if you go now in Panjim, it's happening all along daytime. It starts at 8:39 in the morning, goes on till 8:39 in the evening. That's what I call excessive congestion. And that needs a solution. That needs us to put our heart and mind together for saving the city in terms of traffic congestion. These are the existing traffic directions. The green roads indicate two-way roads. There is a mad rush on all these green roads from either side. This results in haphazard parking because one parks from the right, one parks from on the left. And it's huge amount of parking space wasted on all these green roads just because of haphazard parking. And the blue roads are one-way roads. We have come up with solutions for this, but this is one of the reasons which leads to chaotic situation in Panjim today. Just some visuals. This is 18 June Road. The same road back again. How do we live with these roads? Don't we find the need to actually do something? Then we have the pedestrian environment in Panjim. Again the same road. There are cars and people moving at the same time. Then the public transport system. You know, this is the bus route map as on today for Panjim. It's extremely skeletal. You just take around here and the first bus goes to Miramar and beyond. It actually takes, I mean, we traveled, we don't want to say, it took us 45 minutes to reach Miramar. We timed, there was a stopwatch and, you know, we all went. We said, I don't want to lie in my presentation, let me take the bus. So it took me 45 minutes to go there. And I, you know, I wouldn't want, how we were inside the bus, I wouldn't want to use words used by, anyway. Then there is a skeletal route which goes to, internally, to Dona Paula and Taligaon. It gets dissolved in the maze of Santinez. And then there is come when you want type of a bus service which goes to Altino, and you know people are left at its mercy. When it comes, it's a mystery. But we traveled, we saw that these buses do exist, and there are 71 buses of all doing just this, 3 routes, 1, 2, 3. And of course there are the Santa Cruz buses which just go up and down this Rua de Ore, you know, and the school children are in between of all the 3 schools. That's the situation. It can't be grimmer. These are some visuals. And there is a whole queue of it. And nobody moves. That's when we traveled. And it said one standing. I was quite amused by that, so I thought of framing that on the slide. And then there is haphazard parking. I think we are born with this perfect art of haphazard parking. Even if there is a proper parking space, you just mess it up. But we went counting about how many vehicles can be, you know, parked in the city, or they do park. I wouldn't say how many can park. I will say how many park there. There is a slide for this, is it? So can I go to that? Yeah. There is. This is at 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were very pleasantly surprised. There were no two-wheelers. Two-wheelers, yeah. There were no two-wheelers. Hardly a skeletal, but absolutely in the central business, in the city center, which I say, there were absolutely no two-wheelers. Either they were inside the buildings where there were the people reside, but the streets had absolutely no two-wheelers. And there were 70 four-wheelers parked. This is 18 June Road, just to orient you. This is the MG Road, and this is the AB Road. So, you know, just opposite the municipality, there were some, and you know, at these areas, at Junta House, basically, you know, government vehicles which were parked there, and some people staying in perhaps Hotel Fidalgo. So there were just 70 at 7 o'clock. Then we came about back into the city, say around 8:39. The two-wheelers at 9 o'clock were 1,425. And the four-wheelers at 9 o'clock were 701. You know, imagine how we crushed the city in 1 hour. And this is all, you know, the light brown color is for two-wheelers, and this is how it was parked. All the by-lanes. And I would, can you stop here? You know, when the city decided some time back that we should tackle congestion, one of the main things they did, I don't know how many years ago, Panjamites here would stand testimony. They cut pavements on 18 June Road, on MG Road. They cut pavements, they made them smaller, and they thought that, you know, it was a great move to ease congestion in Panjam. This is what happened. The vehicles went out, and these guys started parking right in front of them. There was double parking. The bikes did the same thing here, and 18 June Road was congested even more. Neither today can the pedestrian walk because of cut pavements, nor can cars move freely because of double parking and triple parking. That's the situation we have been in. And that's the irony of just thinking short. You know, this is what I say, haphazard parking. I mean, someone has kept tires here so that, you know, he can come and park. And, you know, the bike is here, car moves here. I don't blame the police also, but, and then there is no parking and all the host of bikes are parked there. So it's a mess, in fact, which we have to work upon. What is the cost we are facing today? I didn't go into the details of getting details of how many accidents were caused, what was the cause of congestion. You know, the police were perhaps would blow me up actually. I didn't want to get into the details of how many roads. But definitely there are road accidents in Panjam because the register says so. I didn't want to go into details. You know, huge polluted air, excessive smoke. These are general conditions when you enter Panjam. Nobody thinks about noise pollution, but you know, you go and sit in any of our offices, there is blaring of horns outside, or you go to any halls or courtrooms on the road. Absolutely. I think Panjam, in fact, I could move it right here. Panjam can be a no-horn city. I mean, it's such a slow drive. You can enjoy the riverfront and just walk across and have a no-horn city. You know, unless you want to just jam up the city and hugely pollute through the noise. You know, people don't understand that this congestion, in fact, has devalued frontage. Today, in front of a congested road, people had this notion in Goa, which is slowly being lost, that if you have a plot of land and you could build in front of the main road with your compound, and it would be the only thing which would, you know, one would aim for. Today it's no longer the same. People are moving out from the main Miramar road. Come what may. People are moving out from, I'll show you in another slide how people have moved from the central business district. It has become business. It was residential. It has become more and more business because people can't live there. Disabled, inaccessibility is one of these huge conditions. And, you know, it goes on. One of the main things I would like to touch upon is lost time. Internationally, lost time is defined as the time which you lose forever in traffic. You can never gain it back. You can never put it to optimum use. And imagine how much of time you would save if you had to come into Panjim and you would get into your city center in 5 minutes. You would leave your house at least 45 minutes later. That's lost time, which is a cost today. You know, I don't know how many people believe this, but stress and road rage, if you actually travel into Panjim and see in the mornings, you actually would actually visibly see road rage. People are just trying to zoom, and you know, it's stress levels have gone up. Entering Panjim, your stress levels have gone up. Now my decongestion proposal addresses three main issues. First is a transit system for Panjim. We have a whole parking strategy point, and then we talk about pedestrian environment. We come to three main aspects of the decongestion model. In bus rapid transit, we studied, you know, in India or in close in our neighborhood in Goa, we cannot find many models of this, because all our cities are struggling at the same level. All want to do some sort of decongestion strategy, all want to do bus rapid transport. Some bigger cities want to go into metros, but you know, we don't have a model for Goa of its size. Ahmedabad is doing something, Delhi is doing BRT. They are too huge to compare to Goa, and the solutions would be at a different level altogether. So we have studied certain models internationally. One of the models we have studied is Pavia in Italy. It's got 71,000 souls, just average to 65,000 to 70,000 of Goa, and its area is around 16 square kilometers. It has 10 lines. Then we have Toledo in Spain, which we have studied. Again, 83,000 inhabitants, 12 square kilometers, and it has 10 lines again. And we have got these examples because they are more like Goa. They are touristy towns where a lot of people come and visit. They are working areas where people live around and come into the city for some business, commerce or service. And Winterthur in Switzerland is a student town where people come, and the population is more or less up to Goa. They have 8 bus lines. Compared to this, we have developed something we call is as the Panjim Metro map. We have 5 rapid transit lines, and we have 3 hop-on, hop-off lines. Total of 8 lines. We have a city population of 65,000, and we have a metro area of 20 square kilometers. Let me go into details of our proposed bus loops. Loop A is the outer loop. It is the brown loop. It will start at the bus stand, and it will go to your ferry point, Miramar, Karanzalem, Dona Paula's Junction, go to the university, Bambolim, will go internally in Santa Cruz, and come back to the bus stand. And there will be buses clockwise and anti-clockwise, and they will move in this fashion. The second loop, the first loop will be 22 kilometers long. The second loop is the Altino loop. It is 6 kilometers long. It is the B loop. It will come from the ferry point, go up to Altino, and come down from the church square, and it will loop around. It is 6 kilometers long. The C loop is the Santa Cruz, Bartlem, Taligaon loop. It will cover these areas of Bartlem, go to the Taligaon church, then go to Santa Cruz again, through the internal Band Road, and it will move around here. The D loop will be the pure Santines Taligaon loop. This will be the loop which will go up to Taligaon. It will go to this point at where the IT park is proposed at Nagali Hills. it'll turn there and do the loop back again. And the E loop will be the Mala Batlan loop here, the pink loop. These will be the outer city loops. And we have a micro bus loop for the central business district, that's the city center. The city center, it will have three loops. One would start at Parade Ground near Kampal and it will loop into the city. The other would start at the bus stand, it will loop into the New Pato area and come back into the city center. And the third loop will revolve in the city center. So this will be the Kadamba bus station loop, the Bal Bhavan loop, and the hop-on, hop-off in the CBD. We have done some figures. You know, we have done morning peak hours and the regular hours. In the morning peak hours, we would require a total of 60 buses and we would cater to 6,500 passengers. And in the micro bus, we would cater to around 2,700 passengers in a direction. And during the regular hours, we have these numbers. I will leave you all with these numbers. We have done some figures. Evening peak hours, again, we need 60 buses. And evening regular hours, we need 42 buses. So we have done this exercise of bus frequencies into our bus loops. We have seen how these buses will move and things like that. The 5 transit loops and 3 hop-on, hop-off buses, 60 buses for peak hours, 42 buses during regular hours. We have studied that in the school bus network, in the mornings, 18 buses run for school children, all the schools in the city. We would introduce these 18 buses into the 60 buses and see that the school children and schools are covered in these routes, in these loops. 10 microbuses would run in these internal central business district loops every day, and we would cater to a capacity of 50,525 passengers per day. It's almost double the amount of what is being catered by 71 buses today. We would have a frequency depending on the route. We have worked out a frequency of 5 minutes, 10 minutes and 15 minutes. So in the outer route, we want to have a frequency of 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes on a bus stop, you'll get a bus. In certain loops, it will be 10 minutes. In certain loops, it will be 15 minutes. We'll have full coverage from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Special early morning and late nights services would be there. These are the proposed traffic directions. I've shown you the exact two-way roads and one-way roads. We want to propose to make the city unidirectional. All roads would be one way. So as far as the loop is concerned, the blue areas, and this is the city center, we can actually work around how the bus would move and we would know how the direction should move. This is the road in front of the municipal corporation. This is the road in front of Hotel Fidalgo. This is the road in front of Yes Bank. So there will be one road which moves on this side, one road which moves on that side. This would again loop around the same way. This would come around this way. So the buses would go in a loop with two roads inside in opposite directions, and the whole city center, which you see yellow, would be pedestrianized. This is loop A. You know, this is of the hop-on, hop-off bus service. It will start at the KTC and it will run right round into the city. This is the central business district. It will cut off at the ferry point and it will continuously run in this area. So at any point you can just hop in and hop off and just go into the city. And these will be the parking areas at the Santa Monica. I'll come to the parking figures later. Below the bridges, this is at the ferry point. This is the Panjim Market. This is the opposite Don Bosco's where the PWD garage is. This is at Junta House, and this is at Parade Grounds. These are the parkings within the city. These are our bus stops, defined bus stops. This would then define the central business district. The loop B would start at the Parade Ground where people coming from the other end of the city would park, and you can just hop into these buses. They would be continuous buses. Every 5 minutes you would get a bus and it will take you wherever you want. Again, it would define and cover the business area and come back. And then there would be this microbus which will just move around the CBD and take you at whatever place you need. This would be apart from the outer loops. This is just to cater to the center of the city. Today it's not catered at all. You have to get your vehicle because there is no public transport right from the outer end of the city to Altino. There is absolutely, you have to congest the city with all sorts of traffic. So this is what these loops which we propose. The bus stops are located. We have worked around all bus stops in sync with all others. And again, these are the parking points. This is at the ferry point. This is the Panjim market. This area is ice factory where we have already, the government has already laid a foundation stone where this parking would come about. I'll give you figures for that. This is where we propose to have a multi-level parking near Junta House, opposite Don Bosco's, at Parade Ground. This is the market area. This is the ferry point. This is basically the bus loop of the CBD or the city center. This road will be open, which will come about. The CCP building is here. This road would be parking. This is the Fidalgo road. This is open. And this road is near the Matthias Plaza. That would be open. Whereas the entire yellow structure would be pedestrianized and there would be no traffic allowed here. You have parking here, especially for residents. You have parking here in small areas where traffic can flow. We have worked on residence density here also. There is parking here near Fidalgo's. And on the periphery, there would be parking. This would be a typical section on either 18 June Road or plan of 18 June Road or the MG Road or the Atmaram Borkar Road, where, you know, at every junction perhaps you can have, this would be, the crossroad would be pedestrianized. You will have your micro bus, you can stand here, get into the micro at whatever time, and all the other areas would be pedestrian. We have worked on bus shelters, how the bus would be at the level of the bus shelter. You can just, you know, at one level, a low flow bus will touch upon the bus shelter. These are initial designs, these are concepts which have to be worked upon, which will be fine-tuned as per site. Then comes parking strategies. As you know, this is the central area. These are the areas we have proposed for parking. At the ice factory opposite Santa Monica Jetty, we would have a multi-level car parking. These are live figures. The project is planned. It will have 315 four-wheelers and 222 two-wheelers. The two-wheelers won't be in the building. It will be across here, along the jetty, because this space is not used during the day. It can easily be planned for two-wheelers, which we planned the whole area. It is also being planned for buses, since buses are also quite frequently coming, tourist buses, other types of buses. So we have 315 and 222 two-wheelers. Then we have a jetty point here. At the jetty point, we have 147 two-wheeler parking at the jetty, at the Beting Ferry Wharf. In the Junta House multi-level parking, we would have 125 four-wheelers and 174 two-wheelers. In the market area, these are also live figures. We have planned this third phase of the market. When the entire phase of the market is complete, we would have 175 four-wheelers and 214 two-wheelers, which will go in the basement of the market. And at the PWD garage near Don Bosco's, we have 120 four-wheelers and 328 two-wheelers which would be parked here. So people have enough parking. The ideal parking would be here and stop and go into all this area of Panjim. Then we have parade ground periphery, where you can plan for 188 four-wheelers and 604 two-wheelers. This is one of the points raised actually in our previous presentation to the council, and it was a very appropriate point raised. We have to come out with a total parking and no parking plan for Panjim before we implement this. People should know where they would park. People should know where they would not park, and this would be part of our plan. We are yet to freeze these areas, but as the query was raised, if we stop parking in the CBD, all areas, residential areas in the periphery of Panjim would actually be parked, because that would be free. That would not be the case. We would initially freeze parking and no parking areas for the rest of the city, and that would be part of the plan. So appropriate parking policies, including parking hours, rates for all residential areas will be planned, and that would be part of the plan. So this is the pedestrian area of Panjim, and the peripheral parking, on-street parking in the CBD. On-street parking in the city center would be two-wheelers 574 and four-wheelers 391. These will be in these areas, the periphery and the two roads which cross across. So these would be, and there are two roads only for parking here. The rest of the yellow roads which you see here would be free of parking and free of traffic. These are figures we have worked out. Now, as I showed you, in the morning we have 70 four-wheelers, and peak hour parking we have 1425 and 701. Then we have on-street parking 574 and 391. This is what we have proposed in the CBD, which I just showed you. And on-site parking, that is the multi-level car parks, we have these figures. So that this is basically in the other parking lots which we are proposed to create. In the total central business district or the city center, we would have 1,427 two-wheeler parks and 816 four-wheeler parks. Off-site parking, that is total out in the parade grounds or at the Santa Monica area, we have 826 two-wheelers and 503 four-wheelers. A total proposed parking would be 2,253 and 1,319. So if you consider what is this parking, we have a surplus which we have provided for future of 828 two-wheelers and a surplus of 618 four-wheelers which we have planned for the city, which would be operational. Now there are roads. A typical road, if it is 21-meter carriageway, the road in Panjim, say 18 AB road, it is 21 meters across. We would have four-wheeler parking on one side and two-wheeler parking on the other side, and then we would have the bus loops going. So this would be a section of a 21-meter carriageway in the city on the periphery of the CBD. For an 18-meter carriageway, we would have only a car being parked. There would be no two-wheelers and the two lanes would go. For a 15-meter road in the city, we would have only a vehicle, a two-wheeler being parked. There would be no car here and the two lanes would be free, and then there would be the pedestrian. So these are schemes which we have worked out. And how do our parking scheme works? Now on the street parking, for shopkeepers and businessmen, we would have perhaps a monthly pass. In the parking lots, we would have a discount card, and the peripheral parking lots, there would be a discount card plus a bus card. So we say that if you park there with your with your parking ticket, you can also use your bus, you can also use the microbus, and you can move around the city for the entire day. The parking scheme for residents, we would do free. So there would be definite parking marked in the city. Today, what do the residents do? The residents come into the city from work, and they hunt for their own parking around their building. This would not happen. We would mark residents' parking, in outside on the periphery of the CBD. This would be allotted to them. So we know how many residents are there. I'll show you the figures, and we know how much of parking we need to reserve for them, and there is enough parking for the others. Anyway, the residents are parking there, and they are included in our figures. So we have marked them, and we would do them free. For visitors, you have a daily pass or a monthly pass or an hourly, daily, monthly pass. So there are areas where we could work around these. And the pedestrian environment is the last phase which we have worked on. I'll come to the land use in the city. Now this is the city center. Most of the area which is marked in yellow is retail. They are shops, they are retail shops. Then what is marked in yellow are restaurants. And what is in this color are hotels. Then there are institutions. You have police headquarters, you have Masana Damori, the CCP, the Don Bosco's, the Mother Teresa Home, the Pharmacy College. These are institutions. And then you have theatres, the Ashok Theatre, the National Theatre, and then you have the residential. So the residential is at this periphery. People have moved out from these areas. People have moved out. You have residences here. So we are very comfortable in giving enough parking for residents, and we have enough and more for all people coming in to give peace and pedestrian environment to the others. So Panjim is mixed use. There are lots of type, and these type of land use you don't need to actually take your vehicle. Good evening. We have a mixed use where people could actually walk. You don't need to have a car to do all this, your retail work and your hotels or institutions. It would be much more friendlier. And as I said, we have defined where the residences are. We will actually pinpoint who the residents are, and we have done these areas, and we would definitely mark these residential areas as free parking for residents, and the residents would be assured of their parking, which is not happening today. It would be a huge plus for our residents in Panjim. This is how we propose to pedestrianize. The yellow streets, this is your Cafe Bosle area, National Theatre. This entire zone would be pedestrianized. Then the CCP road will be open. Again, this would be pedestrianized on this side. You can park here because we have some residents here, that will be fixed parking here. The Swami Vivekanand road, which goes right up to the riverfront at Fidalgo, it will be through and through. There will be parking here. And then at this periphery, there is a lot of parking for all. We have worked with the fire services. We have thought of how the emergency services would move in the city. There would be enough arrangements to be done and to run through the spine of the city at any given time, and there would be enough alarms or enough arrangements done so that to incorporate all what the fire services director wants and how he wants us to organize the emergency services in the city. A lot of thought has been gone on multimodal transport. Pedestrianization is one, walking is definitely one part of transport mode. Cycling is another mode. We have worked on routes for cycling with cycling bays and things like that. It has to be refined. And cycling today is catching up all over the world to actually be one of the prime modes. We were going through some statistic, and in Copenhagen, cycling has taken over as one of the prime modes of multimodal transport. And there is actually a website of how to Copenhagenize your city. So, you know, we have to think in these terms, and we have actually thought of these cycling stands for Panjim. It could be part of our plan of multimodal transport of Panjim. I would like to summarize our decongestion model now. First, we said we would like to have unidirectional traffic to solve our problem. We can start it sooner or later because we know how our bus loops would move, and accordingly we can move and unidirectionalize our other roads. Thought has gone into it. We'll work with the police and other agencies to finalize this plan. The city corporation has already worked on giving us an approval to unidirectionalize this. We want to test it, and sooner or later this would come through. Then we have the pedestrian zone, where we would actually work with the residents and the community, the business community here, how to work on these parking areas. Then we are working on the parking, dedicated parking lots. As I told you, work on the ferry boat, on the Santa Monica jetty area is already done. It's commencing now. The jetty point we can institutionalize. Market, we have good figures for the market basement parking. This could come up later. We would have enough transport here, parking here. Parade grounds is available to us. So we have a lot of infrastructure which we can already use, and we can, with small juggling here and there, we can tweak a little and create parking both for business, residents and visitors. This would be our loops. One loop here, one loop on the other side, and the continuous loop in our CBD. And these would be the entire bus rapid which would crisscross Panjim. It is not that, you know, there were 3 lines which I showed you earlier. Now there would be multiple lines where the buses would just move on. What would be the benefit Panjim would get of this model? One of the prime benefits which would occur is we would deliver predictable travel time, and we will tell you that for certain that a maximum walk of 125 meters, we have worked it out, 125 meters would have to be incurred from any point of Panjim to catch your nearest bus. And with one interchange on the loop, you would access any part of the city which we have shown on our map. This is a commitment the model gives. And on time, we would give a commitment of reaching from the bus stand to the market in 8 minutes, and perhaps to Miramar in 12 minutes, from the current 45 minutes which we took. So it is a huge plus for people to travel by transit. Definitely safer roads, tremendous air pollution reduction for a cleaner Panjim, fuel consumption, disciplined parking, people would be unidirectional, parks would be marked, increase in property value, increase in tourism. It's a much friendlier city, comfortable shopping experience which would boost local economy, and definitely the quality of life of Panjim which will be much superior. The decongestion model would work only if it is a network. Many people ask me when you will start the work, when this can happen. It cannot happen in one go, and I can't pull one string. The model has to be pulled together. The parking has to come, the unidirectional roads have to come, the buses have to come, people's mindset has to be tuned at the same time. Everything has to happen together. We will work in spurts at different levels, but it is a network of a plan. It cannot be implemented in isolation. We need a whole gamut of things which will work. And definitely Panjim will actually work, and the success and failure of this plan would be how Panjim organizes itself, how its citizens find themselves in, whether they need it, how fast they need it. They have to decide how fast they need it, and how quick they want the tasks they have set before them to be implemented. This is one of the huge things. This is how Panjim, I would say Panjim would be now. I'll wind up. This is the car parks. This is the central business district. Cars, cars, cars. It's auto-centric and pedestrians in between. It would dissolve to a much cleaner Panjim and have people and traffic in equilibrium, in sync with each other, in peace with each other. And I think Panjim could look much nicer and lovelier. This is what Panjim is today. This is the morning picture, today morning. And I wish Panjim could be like this, just in front of my office. To end with, I'll leave you with a small movie which which Charanya has worked and Mapi has worked very hard on, and I've put a lot of pressure on them. But I think you'll enjoy this. Thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Honorable Mayor is right here, so you can, I think she should deserve a round of applause for having fully supported this plan. It's never an easy plan, it's never an easy situation, but she has backed it.